Let's get more analysis now with Amina Accram, who's a senior economics reporter here at the SABC. Amina, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Look, let's talk to us about your reaction to the speech, President Cyril Ramaphosa's State of the Nation address yesterday.
Basically, there's been a very, different views regarding his speech, especially from the economists that we've spoken to. It's kind of been largely welcomed, not just by the economists, but the markets, by the analysts as well. I mean, you must, just before, after there was this confrontation as to whether he was going to be president or not. I mean, the markets it was phenomenal, just the reaction on that. The rand just kind of like took strength, and once he was put in as the president, the markets were just positive. There was positive trading, just the sentiment, this fresh new start. I mean, the economists are saying, they're embracing this new beginning just for the whole country and just for the economy, especially since we need this growth, to start going.
But I mean, which sectors do you feel that the president actually explained a bit more on? I know a lot of people were saying he spoke a lot about some of the projects that he's going to undertake, like for example, your youth work groups and your job summit and so forth. So he was basically talking a business language here for the business people to understand him, and that was actually the sentiment, that he was actually trying to address the business leaders in this country more than a civil society.
I mean, you must remember that he has to also align some of the ANC policies.
Absolutely.
Like, for instance, the agriculture, the mining industry.
Yes.
So you need to take that into consideration. But over and above, these incubators have been there, like, for instance, the business summit, the job summit.
Yeah.
But what has been new is just basically his creation on, sectors that need the push, the economic incubators. He's talking about the summits that we're going to see in the next coming months, which will unpack some of the challenges facing the economy. Like, for instance, how are we going to create jobs? How are we going to get the economy growing again?
Arguing those were not set out plans, rather, Amina, those were just initiatives that are still going to diagnose what the problem is. So a lot of people saying that there wasn't much of a plan that the president was giving.
He was thin on detail, but there is the budget speech that's coming out next week.
Yeah.
Obviously, the finance minister is going to detail where the money is going to come from, what sectors is going to receive what income and expenditure. But you must remember that, these incubators haven't really been, especially that tackle the issues. We've never really had an incubator that, where experts and panels and people can sit down, civil society, business, labor, organized, market analysts, where we can sit down and say, this is what we need to do, this is where we need to go. Of course, he cannot detail these things because he has to talk about a broad sector of other things in speech. He is thin on details, but I mean, these incubators will be able to showcase and give us direction as to what is going to happen with the economy, what we're going to do with the much needed jobs, the push that is needed in some of the sectors. Like, for instance, what are we going to do to get sectors like, for instance, this growth that we're seeing in the commodity boom. If we're going to be on the bandwagon, are we going to miss that opportunity? What's going to happen? He has actually come and addressed some of the key issues within the mining sector, saying we are discussing, we're engaging with the industry regarding the mining charter. And so that has been largely welcomed by the business community, who are saying, yes, we can see that he's willing to talk, willing to engage, and willing to work with us, which is what they wanted to hear. I mean,
tying back with the recent Davos gathering as well, I mean, of course, we've been projected, I think by the IMF to achieve 1%, just under 1% GDP growth this year. And that is very worrying for a country like South Africa. Of course, we just saw the team saying that South Africa is open for business. Do you think that the speech yesterday sold that idea that South Africa is open for business, or it sold an idea that we're still in a phase of get those businesses opened for people to come and invest in? I
mean, the Davos set the path. He was in Davos, and clearly he explained to the investors that this is what we're going to do. I mean, for the first time, in a couple of years, I covered the mining in Indaba a couple of weeks back, and you could see that the investors were sold, through the Davos speech that he had. But then they are coming in, but they have this cautious approach, let's wait and see what's going to happen. Remember, a lot of people held their money back. So we are yet to see if people are going to go back into their pockets and open up these factories that we've seen that have closed down. You need to see the business confidence climbing back up. We need to see, sort of those regulations and red tape that was in small, medium enterprises, in businesses that are going to be set up. It's kind of like, yes, we can see that you're open for business, but we're cautious. We need to see what policies you will implement, what you will tell the business community before we can actually start bringing our money back into the country.
So this brings me to my question. I mean, the issue of time, it's not necessarily, because I'm sure a lot of people reacting to yesterday's speech are now going to be hoping jobs are going to be created. Those 10 billion or 1 million internships that the president was also talking about. He spoke about these things in phases. So I think it's very important and crucial for us to outline for the South African people that these plans are going to take effect over a time and phase of time.
Growing the economy is not something that's going to happen like overnight.
Yeah.
I mean, you still have to look at some of the policies that you have. I mean, we have currently in terms of we have one of the consumer confidence is at its lowest levels currently. And then you remember we're not taking, there isn't enough money. The SARS has not collected enough revenue as well. So there are these expenditures that we have, the projects that we have put in place that are still lacking, they have not been fulfilled, in terms of, women in business, in terms of youth. Where's the money going to come, in terms of creating this free tertiary education for these children? So this needs to be outlined. It has to systematically come in slowly. And remember, there has been all this that has been happening on the background, in terms of they have to sort out the mess first, see where they failed. Like, for instance, the president yesterday spoke about going back to the drawing table and looking at how we're going to get the board members, how we're going to employ board members, how they're not going to be having a part in procurement. These are some of the issues they need to tackle. The loopholes that were there before, they need to stop. They shouldn't come back again. The loopholes that we saw within the economic structure, not just in the government sector, but also in the private sector. Absolutely. The corruptions that we saw in KPMG, we saw all these things that are unfolding before us. Very unbelievable things that we saw. This need to be fixed. And what went wrong for these things to happen? I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done before we can start seeing the growth spots that we need for the economy, for the jobs that we need to start going.
I mean, with that said, I mean, to a person who doesn't have a business mind, so to speak, what would you tell them they should look forward to the most in terms of the president's speech yesterday?
I mean, just basically, he highlighted a couple of things, but the most important thing is, I think, issues around corruption and how that's going to be tackled, because a lot of businesses are saying, look, we're not even going to pay our taxes because we're paying taxes to money that we don't know where it's going to. Issues of service delivery, issues of skills and labor, issues of, where we want to come do business here, but we have all these regulatory issues, red tape. What are some of the things that we need to look out for? And he highlighted, even if it was in thin detail, but those are the things that I think the business and people who do not understand business, those are the things that they need to look out for. Because once you get the economy running, then you get these jobs, and then you also get people paying tax. So it's kind of like a ripple effect. You have the jobs, you have people paying tax, and then again we can have this, round effect, where there's revenue collection and expenditure, and then we can have the country going where we're supposed to a couple of years back.
Look, with that said, then, Amina, we know that the budget speech is always, it always rides on the State of the Nation address. So what can we, just to throw forward now, what can we anticipate will be some of the budget cuts when it comes to the budget speech that is going to be delivered next week?
The budget is sort of, it's done. As we're sitting here, me and you, the budget is done. So the president doesn't have, the current president doesn't have much influence on the budget. It's sort of like it belongs to the minister and the treasury. So, those are things, I mean, the medium-term budget should kind of like mirror what the budget is going to be like next week. I mean, issues regarding sugar tax and whether there'll be VAT increases. I mean, it should sort of like be investor friendly. Obviously, the president has highlighted some of the key issues. We're hoping that's going to sort of mirror what, maybe they would tweak it a bit and it would mirror what Malusi Kigaba's budget is going to look like. Obviously, we need to stop, we need to stop the downgrades. Would it be friendly to the international rating agencies? We've already been downgraded to such an extent that we need to now start picking up those pieces. So those are the things that we're going to be looking forward to in the budget. But as we are sitting down here, the budget is sort of done. It's just to explain. It's done and dusted, sort of to explain what's going to,
so
where the money's going to.
tighten their belts if they're not featured in
Yes,
that
especially in government expenditure. Yes.
Yeah, I heard that they're going to have Cyril Ramaphosa wants to have a much smaller cabinet, so those budget
and
cuts.
Obviously lifestyle audits are very important.
Absolutely, yeah. Yes. All right, Amina, thank you so much for that sound analysis. That is, of course, a senior SABC economics reporter, Amina Accram, and she was giving us economic analysis of the State of the Nation address by President Cyril Ramaphosa yesterday.